Well, I have been involved in research on Malaysian history for at least half a century now, and I have concentrated on the local society. In the past, we used to write about administration, and then people used to write about politics. I feel that's not good enough. It is more important to know the society.
Very true.
And I have written so much on Kuala Lumpur.
True.
And in fact, I'm hoping to bring out another monograph on Kuala Lumpur, because I find that the younger generation, if they want to read up on Kuala Lumpur, have nothing to turn to. You see. Even tourist guides. I ask tourist guides, where did Kuala Lumpur begin? They don't know. You see. That is Malaysia's problem. The younger generation has very little knowledge of their own society, and that is a disadvantage, because all the other countries are very conscious of their own societies. And China, for example, is places such high importance on their own society, and even Singapore is trying to do that. Culturally, historically, Singapore cannot compare with Peninsular Malaysia, but they are so realistic,
committed,
committed. And I'm told that the government gives a lot of money every year for research on culture in Singapore.
Okay.
So we need to make sure that
the awareness,
the past does not just die away, because without the past you cannot understand the present.
Very good, very true. Yeah, right. With regards to the Vivekananda Ashram, how long have your association been, and could you let us know about the early days, perhaps?
Yes, it was when I took an interest in Kuala Lumpur, and I studied various parts of Kuala Lumpur.
I see.
Because our city, even in the case of Singapore, or Ipoh, or Penang, in the beginning was divided into several parts. Because ours being a multi-ethnic society, and each ethnic group in the past preferred to stay among themselves. They felt more secure. So in the end, brickfields, although originally a lot of the Chinese were there, they used to manufacture bricks. That's why it was called brickfields.
I see.
But the government built quarters there, and the Sloanis moved in, because the Sloanis were the biggest number of people in government service at one time.
Right.
So that's how one part of brickfields eventually became very Sloanis. Also, it's very close to the railway.
Right.
And again, the Sloanis dominated the railway. Those days, all the station masters and so on, they were Sloanis. Just as Sentul, a lot of Sloanis there. And eventually, the Indians also came into brickfields. And today, of course, Little India is such an important part of Kuala Lumpur, especially since Manmohan Singh came. Brickfields is completely transformed. The brickfields that I used to know at one time, and look at the pines, they have gone.
Yeah, that's true.
And then development took place in what we call KL Central now. Look at that whole area, all of high-rise buildings. In fact, when they started developing KL Central, there was an attempt to buy the Vivekananda Ashram.
I see. Okay.
Because that's so close to KL Central.
Right across, yeah.
So the land became very expensive, and they want to develop that place, you see.
Right.
And so the ashrama's problem started a long time ago, when brickfields was being transformed. Today it's not recognizable.
Actually.
With one-way traffic and all that. I used to know that area long ago, because my old school headmaster Intan, in those days.
Mhm.
When he retired, he came over and became headmaster of the Christian Day school.
Mhm.
So he was here.
Right.
And Brickfields meant a lot to me because of him.
I see.
But today, it's a totally different. And also, when I was in Ipoh, I was very involved in the YMCA. I
Mhm.
played football for YMCA.
Wow.
So I also, my attention was also drawn to YMCA in Kuala Lumpur and Brickfields.
Right.
And I played football on that ground. You see.
Right.
So Brickfields to me is very close to my heart. But what can I do?
Yeah.
The society has moved on.
Right.
It's become very materialistic.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we don't understand the meaning of culture.
Right.
People think that culture means, painting and drama. No, culture is the whole way of life of the people. You see. And in those days, we were very particular about good values.
Mhm.
You bring children up to be more complete human beings, not just good in only one thing.
Mm.
But today, everything is focused on money.
Mhm.
So if your children can make a lot of money, then they are good children. But if they cannot make money, they are not good children. Those days, children were quite happy being clerks and teachers.
Right.
Today, they are not satisfied to be clerks and teachers anymore. And that's also one reason why our sports activities have all declined. Those days, they would begin in the school.
Right.
The school never encouraged tuition and all that. In the school Cambridge exam, we could take a maximum only 9 subjects. Now they can take 20 over subjects. They want to have many A's. And they go for tuition and so on. They have no time for sports. That's why cricket died.
Yeah.
Because parents think that cricket is a waste of time. You begin the game at about 11 and you don't finish until about 5:30.
Yeah.
So they say it's a waste of time. The society has changed. So, but to me that change is pretty dangerous. Because if money is everything, and then you do not specify that even if you want to earn money, you must earn it the right way. If you exploit people, if you use unfair tactics, it is not fair. And then in every nation, there must be roots that people can recognize. Even the citizens of the country cannot possibly learn to love their country if there is nothing there for them to build up emotionally. You see. Nationhood is not just about the mind, it's about the heart too. You see. And so we need to educate the young today. And I'm very surprised, for example, the history teachers today do not take the trouble to take their children out of the classrooms to look at historical sites. In my days, although I was a science student in those days, not a history student, but we did a little bit of history and the teachers were very good. They took us out in Ipoh to the tin mines and so on. And we even learned to cycle from one town to another, in those days.
Interesting.
Because there were not so many cars.
Cars,
there.
yeah.
But today, as I said, when I ask tourist guides where did Kuala Lumpur begin, they don't know.
Sure. But there have been, with regards to the ashrama, Tan Sri, there have been, this is not the first attempt
Yes.
at this.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah. In fact, in 2003-2004, Tan Sri, you had also contributed to stopping the development at that point. Could you tell us a little bit about that set of facts as you were aware of them?
Yeah, because I got interested in that whole area because of the government quarters. I was shown those quarters a long time ago. And of course, unlike most Chinese, I grew up in the company of various ethnic groups. So whether they were Indians or Eurasians or Malays, I did not find them to be strangers.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came here and I got interested in Kuala Lumpur, so I found that area was very interesting because the Sloanians, being a very small community, were always very, very influential in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed in government quarters most of my life because, most of my young life, because my father was a government servant. And the Sloanians were always chief clerks in many government departments, and they would also decide what quarters to allot to which particular person. So I found them very interesting, and I have many friends who were Sloanians. So I can distinguish between Sloanians and Indians. When you say Tamil, it can mean Tamil from India or Tamil from Jaffna.
Right.
And in fact, in those days, you don't say Tamil from Jaffna, you just say Jaffna is enough because it was understood that Jaffna was Tamil. And you don't call a Jaffna person a Sloanese because they said a Sloanese would automatically be a Sinhalese. That was the thinking in those days.
Right.
So I got very interested in all that, and I have done so much study on ethnicity. So now I can talk about Malays, and not just Malays, what different groups of Malays. Where do you find Boyan, Banja, Bangka Ulu, Japanese, Bugis, Minangkabau? I can pinpoint in which particular part of the peninsula you can find descendants of each group. And even if you go into politics, people, for example, cannot distinguish between UMNO and the Malay Nationalist Party. So some of them say Malay Nationalist Party was stronger, better than UMNO because they were the ones who fought the British. But the Malay Nationalist Party was founded by Sumatran communists. And so many of the members were also leftists. So the British never negotiated with them about the future of the country. See, unless you know all these little things, even among the Chinese, Hokkien, Cantonese, Hakka, different types. Kuala Lumpur Hakka, Ya Allah is Hakka, was different from the Ipoh Hakka. Unless you know all this background, you cannot understand the society. And heritage buildings and whatever that you inherit from the past will affect the present. People are not aware of it. Education can change a lot. Tagore said, to build a nation, first build a school. The school can do so much. In those days, parents would allow teachers to influence their children. Parents today don't do that. If the child is punished in the school, very often the parents will come to the school to confront the teachers.
Very true.
So the parents have a much greater influence today. So unless the parents themselves know history, they cannot bring up their children the right way. And our society in those days, Malaysia, was so different. We were so particular about good values, about doing things the right way. Today, they want to know how much are you earning. That's the difference. And the ashrama is facing a problem because Brickfields area is developing so fast and land is so valuable. So people who can make money out of that would want to do something about it.
Very true. Very true. Have you any personal recollections with regards to the ashrama, Tan Sri? Perhaps you
when my son started dancing, he quite often performed at the back of the building. At that time, that part of the building was frequently used by young dancers. but somehow it stopped.
Yeah.
And today it's no longer that famous as a cultural center
Yeah.
because people don't go there to dance like before.
Yeah. Perhaps the awareness also. The trustees perhaps did not, publicize or did not make any attempts to
Yeah, I think
create an environment.
they are also facing the problem of people making offers, very high offers. And Kuala Lumpur today is so different. Land is so very expensive.
Yeah.
So when it's very difficult actually. I grew up in Intan at one time, and it was a very simple town, very successful because lots of estates around there. But now, when I go back, I cannot recognize the town.
Yeah.
Every old building is just torn down because they want to build high-rise buildings, and people are willing to pay to buy land to build these houses because they can make money. You see? So it's all about making money today. Very, very sad state of affairs. And so values change. So people don't care for one another that much anymore. It's not like in those days. Like in the government quarters area where all the Sloanis used to stay, they were so close together. And that's why they built the ashram, so that they could be close to it. And then people don't realize that if you want to know a lot about Kuala Lumpur, it's very easy. Because the Malay Mail started publication in 1896, it has not stopped. So the Malay Mail is like a diary about Kuala Lumpur. Almost everything that happened here was recorded there. One has to be hardworking, that's all. But to find young scholars who are hardworking is very difficult. They don't go to the library, and they cannot sit down from morning till night reading newspapers. We used to be able to do that. And so there is so much. Malaysia is so lucky. Its history is recorded in so many languages. In Dutch, in Portuguese, in Chinese, in Japanese too. Because the Japanese ruled this country from Taiwan. And in Taiwan today, they have preserved all the Japanese administrative records on Malaya. I've been trying to persuade a Malayan to learn Japanese and to go to Taiwan. Nobody has done that. So
such a wealth of information there.
So when I don't know how the Sloanis feel towards ashram. They were very, very emotional about ashram at one time because it was theirs. And they have also disappeared from the government quarters. That used to be such a specific area for the Sloanis community. Now you want to look for the Sloanis community, where do you go? No place. You can't go to Little India. It's very Indian or Sloanis. There is a difference between Padmanabhan and Padmanabhan.
That's one other question. You've heard of the present proposed development. What are your thoughts on it, and have you signed are you supporting the petition to save the ashram?
No, nobody has approached me about that problem. But I will tell you about heritage building. The whole idea started when they wanted to tear down Selangor Club, and Tun Razak stepped in and said they should not do that because the Selangor Club is a heritage building. And from then onwards, the government became very conscious of the need to preserve heritage buildings. So much so that Selangor Club gained because initially the government had given them another piece of land think Damansara there.
Correct. Okay.
So when this old building is not torn down, they have another building there. So there are two Selangor clubs now. And I'm involved with the Lake Club, and the Lake Club is able to preserve the building. And so I think we need to make sure that money does not interfere in everything. There is such a thing called culture, and people must be very conscious of the fact that each nation has its specific culture, and our culture is so very, very interesting. We have everything from various other countries. Whether you want to know about the Sikhs, or whether you want to know about Jaffna, Telugu, Malayali, you can come here. Among the Chinese in Kuala Lumpur, there are no less than 2,000 associations even today. Because they are of different groups. And if you want to study Malaysia's politics without understanding the ethnicity of the people, you will never be able to do it. You end up saying all Chinese were communists, whereas the majority of the Chinese were anti-communist.
So the ashram actually represents history
Yes,
of the
very much so.
Yes.
The Ceylonese
Community. Yes.
Jaffna people,
Jaffna.
not Ceylonese,
Yeah.
Jaffna.
Okay.
And they too should take the trouble to preserve their heritage here,
Right.
help the younger generation to understand these things. Actually, if you understand your own cultural heritage, you become more secure. You don't feel threatened. It's only when you are not sure who you are that you feel threatened. For example, a lot of non-Muslims think that the Muslims are trying to convert them all the time. No, the Muslims are not trying to convert them. In fact, if you look at what the Muslims are doing, they tend to be very exclusive. They don't even want non-Muslims to follow their ways. So there's so much conflict between the two, because each does not understand properly what culture is all about.
Correct. In your opinion, Tan Sri, what do you feel culture should represent or should mean to the various communities?
Yeah, culture means the whole way of life of a community.
Right.
Even how you eat, with your fingers or with your hands, that's culture. How you walk, like in Chennai, the people there are very interesting. They said, all you have to do is to walk, and we can tell whether you are local or foreigner. So every little thing.
I see.
And I've grown very used to these things, so I'm very conscious of the way people behave, the body language, the way they dress. Then I watch Tamil films a lot, so I can tell whether somebody is from India or not from India. And even the Chinese think that they are very Chinese, but they are not that Chinese compared to the Chinese of China.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you could put Vivekananda Ashram in one sentence, how would you describe the ashram?
I think it is an important part of Kuala Lumpur's heritage, because Kuala Lumpur was from the very beginning multi-ethnic community, and they have been able to get along so well, despite the differences. There is no reason why those differences should be wiped out.
Right, very true. Lastly, Tan Sri, any plea for the younger generation with regards to the ashrama and other places of heritage?
Yes, the younger generation must take an interest in where they live They must be very conscious of their society, which is their own. Today, of course, if you are Malaysian, you belong to Malaysia, you must know Malaysia. You cannot cite your great-grandfather and so on and say you are from there, you see. Things are very different now. As I said, if I were to go back to China, from that part of China where my great-great-great-grandfather came from, I would be completely lost. See. I have been close to China, not actually in China, close to China. And it's a very different society. Even when I go to Hong Kong is very Cantonese. Ipoh is very Cantonese. But Ipoh and Hong Kong are very different. And culture makes that distinction. Culture is not just drama and fine arts, it is a whole way of life of a people.
That's right. And Ashrama represents one part of that.
In the case of the Vivekananda Ashram, it was at one time a very important part of the Jaffna community.
Okay.